Rightio, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Technician Podcast. Pumped about this one. Got the brother Charles Myssy on today. How are you, my man?
Very good. Thank you so much, Travis, for having me on, bro. It's an absolute pleasure. It's an honor. And g'day to everyone who's tuning in. Thank you for tuning in. And I really hope that you enjoy this conversation that we're about to have.
Oh, they will, dude. And I think we can set the tone with something. I saw something interesting. I like to do a little bit of digging on my guests, not too much because I like to, as I say, be very curious and just ask questions if I don't know who the fuck you are. I do know who you are. I've been watching you for a long time, but for anyone that doesn't know who you are, I'd like to start with a little quote from one of my favorite characters, who's also one of your favorites. Is I'm not saying I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world. By Mister Tupac Shakur. Bro,
Bro,
how does that line land for you and what you do?
bro, I love Tupac, man. He was like one of the first guys that I listened to, and it just felt like it gave me permission to be experiencing the darkness that I was going through as a teenager in
Oh,
my young years. So like his words, even though I wasn't in the exact same environment that he was in, I was in my own version of it. I was raised in housing commission in Western Sydney, and as even though it's not as you know uh, as extreme as what you'd find in other parts of America, I just related to it, and the way that he would express his emotions through his poetry and his raps, it just felt like I could just give myself permission to be experiencing what I was in, as like someone understood where I was going in. And I think just that in itself there, like that connection that I had with him and his work, it it that permission just sparked something within me to start channeling that energy that I had, and not be ashamed of it, not try and push it away, because I was literally watching someone do something really powerful with theirs. So I think just going back to you talking about him sparking the mind of someone who's going to change the world, like I think that was something that I got from him that definitely sparked a deep sense of acceptance I had for these aspects of myself that were quite that otherwise I could have easily just pushed away in the shadow, and not integrated in any way, in any positive sense. So I think that's what he's given me through that, through my experience with Tupac. So yeah.
mm, beautiful answer, bro. I appreciate that. And I think it's so true with essentially, I resonate a lot with how you speak and how you show up. It's very much how I like to be, where it's like, I don't necessarily believe anyone has any rules on how they get to be. There's, as you say, there's a lot of rules within spirituality, for example, and it's like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do this, you must be this, you must fuck all that. Allow the human experience to play out, and then that allows us to develop in our own way. And so, for you to get this permission to just be you, I'm sure that allowed you to just go on your own journey in your own way, and that's now why 15 years plus down the track, you are the man you are today. And I'd love to know though, in the streets of mean Burwood, like what is it that say you're around, you listen to Tupac, probably 50 as well, because that was one of my favorites too. What was it that really started to get you into this game of, like, because I'm assuming you were a bit different when you were younger too. I know I was. Did you cop shit from other people at a younger age and like questioning you because you were different?
I think everyone cops a bit of that to some degree, especially as we're forming our own identity and a strong enough sense of self that we believe is unique in the social norms that we're in, that social landscape. So I definitely feel like I copped like I don't know, I'd say a normal sense of that. But for the most part, I was really blessed in my teenage years, where I felt a really strong connection to the boys that I grew up with. It was a beautiful brotherhood that we did have. A lot of the boys there also, were kind of growing up in similar type of situations, single mums, families, and just all that stuff. So I really felt like I could relate to them in that sense. So I really did feel like a deep sense of belonging with my mates growing up as a teenager, and that was really, really powerful for me, and I think really important for anyone to have an experience like that. And I think when you don't, it can really show up in negative ways later on in life. It definitely gave me a lot of confidence and socially in that way. But I think I definitely wasn't, spiritual back then, but I was deep in a sense. Me and my mates would have, some of them anyway, we would have deep conversations. I remember me and one of my mates, we would ask each other, "Oh, you want to have a D&M?" And that was just like a deep, meaningful, like we were about to go deep and talk about things. So there was always that space that I had with my mates where we could really get deep, talk about the world, society, all these different things. And then as I got older, I just got smarter and I actually started to know, more so what the fuck I was talking about. Because when you're young, you're just sprouting all this, half the time it's just nonsense, but you have thoughts that expand on other thoughts and you evolve and learn and grow, and that's what it's all about. But I'd say, as I was going through, a bigger transition when I was in my mid to late 20s, yeah, I did cop shit from the people that I was working with in my work environment. So I used to be a personal trainer for 8 years, working in the Sydney C B D, really corporate style environment, really high end. And I was the guy meditating outside the gym. I was the guy, preaching, nature. I was the guy walking barefoot. I was that dude. I was the guy traveling to some really abstract places around the world and having different experiences that, it wasn't socially normal for people to be going to places like that. In fact, the government was recommending people not to go to places like that, and actually saying like, don't travel here. But I was going. So, you copped a little bit of shit for that, but I'd say it was nothing more than just a bit of banter and having a bit of a laugh and a yarn with the boys. And but some people do genuinely like really think it was like weird, but I always felt like I wanted to be different, and it's almost like their perspective didn't affect me in any way. If anything, I would actually, if we would actually get into a lot of debates in these types of environments, and I was always down for that. I don't shy away from like confrontation,
Both.
and we would debate it, and it would actually be like a space for them to expand their perspective. I'm not saying that I knew everything. Some of my beliefs would often be challenged as well, but yeah, basically, if someone was going to challenge me or judge me or something, it would either turn into a debate or I just wouldn't give a fuck. Yeah.
I like that. And I guess you're around my age, aren't you? Like 30, around 32, 33.
32, yes.
So at that time, what was inspiring you to actually go into the whole, like, meditation, the breathing, the feet on the earth, and all that sort of stuff? Like, who was it that was causing you to be the way you were?
You know what, bro? I feel like I always had this interest and connection to like nature, to tribes and things like that. Like even when I was a teenager, I remember have you ever seen that movie Apocalypto?
Bro, top five favorite movies for me.
Bro, I fucking love that movie.
I was an
Wow.
Aztec in a past life. I'll tell you about that one day.
Bro, I literally got one of those kind of haircuts that the guys in the movie
Mm,
had when I was a
fucking
teenager.
mean. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I put I used to wear a necklace that had like a dead scorpion in like this crystal or something, and like I just used to
Ooh,
love that sort of look, so I was
yep,
always
yep.
like associated with it. In fact, in my teenage years, my nickname was Jungle Chuck.
I saw that in your travels.
Yeah. So there was always some connection that I had with nature, and I just loved it. It was just something so primal in me that felt called to like embody this like wild man archetype or something like that. When I was a kid, I used to spend a lot of time outside playing with insects, catching spiders, and I just loved it. I loved watching animal documentaries. So there was always this thing inside of me that loved that. So I think I feel like I always had a connection to nature, let's call it. So as I was getting older, there was a moment where I kind of disconnected from it for a bit. I was more focused on my appearance and, working in a corporate gym and things like that. But, I'd always find time to go outside, sit in the sun, sit in the grass. Other people would be on their lunch breaks, in the staff room, artificial lighting, just on their phones. I'd be outside. it just felt good having my bare feet in the earth. Like I didn't watch a fucking video that's like grounding is good for negative ions and all this shit. Like
You
I
must do
just
this.
exactly. I just liked putting my bare feet on the earth and it felt good. And I
It
was
was
like,
just intuitive, right?
yeah, it's intuitive. I was fucking, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And I liked walking around barefoot. And then meditation is something. How did I get into meditation? Oh yeah, that's right. Actually, I started learning how to meditate when I would walk to my train station on my way to work as a PT when I was doing
Ooh,
PT.
okay.
And I was doing this walking meditation where I'll put my headphones on, beautiful, and I just like listen to music and I just focus on being present. Look through my peripheral, just really look at the trees, the sun, the clouds, like really be present with it. And all of a sudden, I was getting into these like highs. My body was just fucking getting high. And I'd rock up to work as a PT just floating. And that's why everyone would give me shit because they're like, oh, here we go. It's on fucking drugs again. It was a bit of a joke.
Is this kook?
Yeah, is this good? We're all fucking miserable here. You can't be
You just
happy.
walking, smiling, you piece of
Yeah.
shit.
What are
Yeah.
you smiling about?
Yeah. I hear you, bro. I was that guy at Rebel Sport. I worked at Rebel for 6 years, and I'll be that one coming in like real happy in the morning, and everyone fucking hated my guts for it. I couldn't understand at the time. I couldn't understand. I was like, "What do you mean, guys? I'm trying to be nice." At the same time, I was a people pleaser hard back then. So there was part of me that wanted to just be like them and not have to show up and be happy all the time, but I wouldn't allow that. So yeah, I love how you put that because in those moments, it sounds like you still were happy to stay true to yourself, even though it was being questioned all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a big anti-conformist. Huge.
Same, bro. Yeah, I love it. It's because I'm at the point where I had an experience. Have you heard of NLP before? Neuro
Yeah.
linguistic programming.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did with Elizabeth Ann Walker on the Gold Coast. So it's called integrated because you go through all the processes yourself. Which I'm a
Nice.
firm believer of. Like, if I'm going to take clients through stuff, I want to check it out myself first. And bro, it took me some places. But anyway, there was one moment where everyone in the room, there's like 70 people, they're all having existential crises through this documentary we're watching about the reality, the non-reality, and all the things at times not real, and
Mm,
everything's real but nothing's real, and all the things, right? For me, because of the work I'd done to that point, I'm sitting there going, fuck yeah, let's go, this is sick. It's almost like I can play in a game and I can create whatever I want. Whereas everyone else around me is like literally breaking down crying, thinking, what's the point of living? Why are we
yeah.
even here? All the things. And I thought, guys, you can do and be whatever you want. What's going on? Like, and I very much relate to that, bro, because I think sometimes I get to a point where I'm like, I can almost get to a point where I don't care about anything. You become very apathetic and almost like, what's the point of doing this shit? No one cares. No one wants to do the work, blah, blah, blah. But I know that's also normal on this journey, right? When we're trying to help people, there's going to be that feeling of like, what's the fucking point? And I'm assuming, have you had a few of those moments, even in your early days with PT, like trying to get people to stay on their routines and stay training? Like, was there those sort of issues coming up for you?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I'd done over 10,000 hours of personal training and working with people, and I think it
Mm,
really prepared me for the type of work I'm doing now with people, where I'm doing a lot deeper work with people. I do NLP as well with clients, do shadow work,
yeah,
do
peak.
hypnotherapy, parts work, all these different therapeutic approaches, and um, yeah, so I've been through years of coaching people already prior to that, so it really set me up on I think a healthy perspective of how much responsibility I take for people's healing journey, and so to not get disappointed each time someone is not like transforming in the way that or part of me or my ego thinks that they should, for me to feel better about myself because I feel like I've achieved something or I'm a good coach or something like that.
Yeah, I
So you
love
just
that.
really let go of a lot of those attachments to other people's emotions, really to other people's journey, and letting go of the desire for me to be the the reason why they transform and change. I'm only meant to guide them to a certain point, and be a part of their experience in some way, but it's all them, it's all their journey, and it's created a healthier dynamic for me with doing this work, and it's allowed me to in the last few years do about 8,000 hours of couch of coaching in this deeper way in such a short period of time, and that can be really exhausting for a lot of people, and heavy. But I think just maintaining like a strong sense of self throughout it for me, and not an attachment to their emotions and their journey. Obviously there's a responsibility that I have for holding space for people. I'm not going to be a dickhead and, do negative things and be like, oh, well, that's your perspective of it or whatever. Obviously there's a responsibility I have,
Yeah.
but it's just that, just knowing and trusting that, they're the main part. They're number one in their journey, and I'm just a guide. I think that's helped me a lot with that.
Yeah, I love that, bro. And I'd love to then segue into your journey as to where you're obviously here now, where you're at. Like, people see you making these incredibly funny videos and these profound sayings about what you believe about shadow work and inner child, and it's fucking incredible, right? But who the fuck were you before that? Like, you were this, from what I saw, bro. I full like going through your page, like, oh my god, he got to meet gorillas, he climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, he got to stay with the Maasai people, like all these incredible cultures that I want to experience, which I finally can now that I'm like, become more successful. I got no money blocks. I was the broke kid growing up, bro. My mindset around money was an evil sort of thing. So I'm going to assume here that, as you said, growing up in that childhood that you did, was it something that you appreciated money, so you were able to start saving and build your own wealth to go and travel and do the things? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, so just a bit of where I was at during teenagers, early 20s, all that sort of period before I started breaking out of all those shells. And I'm so grateful that I did at that age. I think if I didn't go through that state that I was in, would have just become so normal, and it becomes harder to get out, and eventually, bites people in the ass later on in life and shows up in some way. So I'm just glad that I just really challenged myself a lot in those years and started going to these places at that time. But before that, I was very, very judgmental, very angry, judgmental. Like, bro, having just like a challenging conversation, it would end up in an argument. Most likely screaming, yelling, swearing. It would more often than not lead to that. Sometimes even physical violence, like whether I punch a door or rip a fucking door out of the thing or something like that. In a home, in my home with my family.
Mm.
I got into a few experiences of physical like fights on the streets growing up. Nothing that I would ever start. It was all just because it was a bit of an aggressive area, and you're around other aggressive guys, and the chances of a fight happening just increases. So it's just that environment. Very low self-worth, very, I had no idea what I was doing in my life. At that point in time, I was working in random jobs, working in retail, working in landscaping, laboring, just doing all these shitty jobs just to get by and making really low amounts of money. So yeah, I had a lot of blocks. I just had a lot of fucking limiting beliefs about so many things, bro. Fuck.
Yeah. Did you have anxiety as well? That was one of the big ones I had to move through.
Anxiety, yeah, I definitely. I wouldn't say I had high levels of anxiety. I'd say I had high levels, more so of depression. I think
Yeah.
depression was something more that I had to deal with. I was addicted to gaming. World of
Same, bro.
Warcraft.
Yeah.
Bro, I was fucking 16 hours a day playing World of Warcraft when I was a teenager. 16 hours in my room, Cocoa Pops. All the blinds are closed. It's a
Jerking
beautiful
off 4 times a day.
jerking off 4 times a day. Exactly. It was just fucking, my room was a fucking mess. It's like that's where I was at, before I started doing all this. And it all started for me getting into training, boxing, lifting weights, boosting up my confidence, doing something beneficial for myself. I was actually studying film and T V at that time, so a very creative person.
I can tell.
Thanks, bro. Very creative person, loving all the nature documentaries. I actually wanted to go and make documentaries in nature when I was older. I used to love watching like Ross Kemp, Louis Theroux,
Bro,
like
yeah,
people
Louis
that
the
would,
man.
yeah, to go around and do, like, I want to do stuff like that. And I am gonna, it's funny because it's starting to happen like that, because I've just created a YouTube channel and I'm gonna start traveling again
I
next year.
saw that, bro. That's sick. Well done.
So it's happening, bro. It's fucking wild how
Hey,
the journey there looked a little bit different. But so I studied film and T V, poor as fuck. I'm like, fuck, how am I going to make money in film and T V? You know, what am I going to be a sound guy in a news studio and listen to fucking, just annoying people talk about the weather and like,
yeah,
hey guys, you should buy this product in seven news morning show, whatever it is. I'm like, fuck that, man.
yeah,
And
nah,
even then, it's like trying to climb that ladder. You got to like you got to like suck up to people like that just wasn't me. I'm like, I'm not fucking doing that.
there's no chance.
And I had this perception of myself because of my ethnicity and my race. Being Lebanese at that time, I had a really negative association with being Lebanese in Sydney. um I didn't accept who I was because I didn't feel like I was accepted in the environment I was in, and I had like these beliefs that's like, I'm Lebanese, they're not going to want to hire me, everyone's racist and all this sort of stuff. So there was a lot of blocks that I was like, fuck this, I'm not pursuing this pathway in this career of film and T V. So I was training, and I'm like, you know what? I heard there was this guy at my gym that I trained at who was making like $1,600 a week, and I was like, what? No way, man. That's so much money. What would
After
I?
tax, holy shit, bro.
So I was like, fuck it, man. I like training. I like helping people. I studied to be a PT, and then I studied to be a PT. Studied for a year. I was working in shitty jobs for like a year after my course. I didn't have the confidence to go and start because it's like you got to pay rent and it's scary. You got to run your own business. Like, but then I decided to just jump in and sign up at a gym. And bro, I fucking killed it. I was killing it. I became the best PT at that gym in terms of how many sessions I was doing, the results I was getting with clients. Very quickly, I was the youngest one there. It was just like, it's like, wow, like I'm actually fucking good at this. And that gave me so much confidence. And I was making good money, as a 22, 23 year old. I'm making two and a half grand a week, getting paid cash mostly. I was
Yeah.
like, fuck, this is sweet. So I'd have all this cash and all this money, and I wasn't drinking, I wasn't going out, I'd barely buy clothes. I didn't have any like addictions that would take up like money from me at that time. I was just working, training, and all I would do at that point was save to go and travel overseas. And what
Mm.
inspired me to go and book a trip overseas was I was going through a breakup and I was depressed as fuck. And I just said, I need something to get my mind off this. So I'm like, I'm going to go to South America. And then that's when it started my travel trip endeavors. And that's what got me into that. And then yeah. And then after that, bro, I was traveling like once, twice a year, just going anywhere and everywhere, bro. I didn't care where it was. I'll fucking go there, bro. And I was having the best life-changing experiences ever from going to all these places.
Dude, I'm so excited to get to this point of the conversation because this is where I had some really cool questions around some experiences that you had where you go, and because I remember I've not really traveled much, bro. As I said, I've not really ever had money. Now that I'm doing quite well in my business and things are going well, it's like, shit, where can we go? My fiance has gone fucking everywhere. That's what her families did. Like her family was like, two, three times a year, let's go travel around the world. Let's go check a new country out. So for me, to see people like yourselves, I'm like, bro, like, what was it like meeting a gorilla? A gorilla is one of my favorite animals. Like I'd love to hear what that was like being in front of something that could just like tear you apart. Like, and then climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, being in Lebanon and being in that beautiful water with like the big oak trees and stuff. Like that sort of shit is what I want to hear because I know when you speak about that, you're going to go back to those times and those moments. And you're going to remember what it was like when you first experienced that. And I want people listening to feel that passion as you're saying those things. So I guess for me, it'd be as I'm asking this question, where is your mind and your heart gone to? There's a place that you've just gone to that you never forget that moment. And you're like, you're there right now.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, yeah. I'm already lighting up as you're saying this, man.
Mm,
Um, so a few things came past. Either way, the examples that you just shared there, they're definitely some of the highlights. But I'm happy to just share some fucking wild stories.
oh, bro, I'm going to sit here and just like, let's go. Hit
So
me.
I'll share the gorilla one first.
Yeah.
You share the
Yeah.
gorilla one first. All right. So the gorilla one, I was 24 years old. I decided to go and travel around the world on my own for I think it was like 8 weeks, 8, 9 weeks. I started off in Europe. I went to like Spain, Portugal, and Then went to Morocco, Netherlands, Belgium, and Cyprus, and I was kind of going around that region, and that was all cool. But the trip really started to blow my mind when I then went to the Middle East and then Africa after that. That's when it was just like, fuck, like these are the places that I want to be traveling to. Like, Europe's cool, it's nice. Yeah, I'm in Barcelona, but it's just, there's just something about going to these other places that I just felt more like fucking wow. So then I went
Well,
to
they're not
Jordan.
westernized, right?
They're not westernized. It's just like you're completely going into a different world. And yeah, bro, it was just insane. So I went to Jordan, I went to Egypt, I went and saw Petra, the fucking
Mm.
pyramids, going into temples, the tombs. That was all sick. It was just insane. And then after that, I had a 3-week trip, camping safari trip in Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda. So that was like East Africa. And that's what I was most excited for. And I was on my own, but I was traveling like with a group of people. We were going around in this bus, and we would camp out along the way and go to all the national parks. And I'm seeing all these different animals, and it's fucking wild. Like, wow, man, this is sick. I'm 24 years old. Where the fuck am I? And then the highlight of the trip for sure was at the end. We were in Rwanda, and just being in Rwanda in itself, it's just like fucking wow. It's just mind blowing. You're literally in a country where there's so much like, bro, just like the genocide that happened in the 90s, and you're seeing people walking around that are like our age, that are missing arms, missing legs, that they were hacked off by machetes during that period. People that lost their whole families due to the genocide. Two tribes that literally went to war with each other, that for the most part without even guns or anything like that, but with like
Just
blunt
machetes
weapons,
and yeah.
machetes and shit, now coexisting and living together, like moved on from that experience and healed from that that conflict, that trauma there. And I'm sure there's still a lot of trauma there, but it's just seeing that, it's just like, wow, this is fucking insane. Surely I can repair my relationship with my father or something if this guy's forgiven the people that's cut off his arm. It's just really just blew my
It's
mind.
okay, brother. It's okay.
Yeah. And then at the end of the trip, we went to the Virunga Mountains, and these are these mountains that a border between Uganda, Rwanda, and the D R C, so the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Mm.
And this is where the last mountain gorillas are. So there's two different types of gorillas. There's lowland gorillas and there's mountain gorillas.
Mm.
And the mountain gorillas, they're the ones that are like almost they're almost gone extinct. Like I think it was in the, can't remember the dates, but it was like the 70s, 80s, and 90s when Jane
Wanda.
Goodall, I think that's her name. Yeah. She went there and there was only like 300 of them left. And she decided to start, doing some great work there. So by the time I was there was 700 of them.
Oh
And
shit.
but we got to the bottom of these mountains. There were all these tribal people like, yeah, 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 like playing drums and like welcoming us in. And what they're doing was they're like giving us a blessing before we go and embark on the journey to going to, find the gorillas. And they only let like a certain amount of people per day go up into the mountains, and they split them up into groups of 7, and each group has a ranger and a guide, and you go into the mountains to try and find one family of gorillas. And they're gorillas that have been like habituated with humans, but they don't let too many humans go up to them, because otherwise the gorillas start changing their natural behavior, and they want to keep it like as authentic as possible for the
Of course,
reproduction
yeah.
of the species and shit. And bro, we went and trekked in this jungle, bro, and this jungle's literally called the impenetrable forest. Bro, it's just like thorns and bushes, and we're chopping machetes through it, trying to get through. It's like, bro, there's like stinging nettles stinging us everywhere, and you're getting numb in your legs from getting stung by these plants.
Mm.
And bro, we're hiking for like 9 hours through this jungle trying to find this family, and it's not guaranteed that you're going to find them, and you got to pay like 1,500 Australian dollars to have a chance to potentially see them. And it's getting late, and we're getting worried, like, fuck, are we going to see the gorillas? And then all of a sudden, the ranger goes, okay, in 5 minutes, we're going to see the gorillas. Put all your bags down over here. Don't bring any food with you. And then he started telling us, like, okay, this is what happens when you get there. Don't cough, next to them. When the silverback comes up to you, don't look at the silverback in the eyes. Okay. When the silverback first comes up to you, you have to act more submissive, look down, look small. Don't like intimidate or taunt the silverback gorilla. And they also taught us gorilla language, bro. This fucking blew my mind, bro. They taught us to make these grunting noises when the silverback comes, because then the silverback will know that we are friendly, we're friends, and it sounds like this. And you just got to keep repeating that until the silverback accepts you to come in and be welcomed into the family, bro. This fucking thing blew my mind. Anyway,
imagine fucking the language up and you say something. He's like, "What? What'd you say?" He's shit.
Yeah, it's like I'm giving them a thumbs up, like hey, come in peace, but in their language, it's like a fuck you.
Yeah, literally. So what, you little bitch?
So, bro, then we start going deeper into the jungle, and then we can see in the tree line in the distance, like trees and leaves moving, like shh. And I'm seeing like little baby gorillas like creeping in, looking through there. I'm seeing like mothers grabbing their babies and pulling them away from us, like really far away as they're kind of noticing us there. I'm seeing like young gorillas kind of creeping in and looking over, like really interested in like, who the fuck are these people? You know, I'm just like, you're just getting these little glimpses of gorillas. You're like, fuck, man, what the fuck? We're here. And then, bro, all of a sudden, start seeing the trees. Like, it's like something big.
Like Jurassic Park shit.
Some Jurassic Park shit, bro. King Kong shit, bro. And then the trees are moving. I'm going to exaggerate the story now. Then it's like, dosh, big footstep. This big footstep. And then out of nowhere, this fucking humongous being. This humongous man. It wasn't like an animal, bro. It was a man.
Yeah.
It was a fucking man coming straight up to us. Went straight in front of all like 9 of us, including the rangers and stuff, and stood there and went into this like gorilla fucking stance,
like that arch back and shit,
bro, arch back, and it was looking, bro, the eyes were huge. It had these big red dark brown eyes, and it was just staring at all of us, and it was making these noises like like it was, bro. And then
I can feel it, bro. I got goosebumps. Holy,
bro. And then we were all just like like making our little bitch noises. And then we were looking small. And then it was, bro, this guy, I locked eyes with him a couple times, like just like little glimpses, like not like they're staring him out or anything, but just like, because you can't help it. It's like an eclipse.
Panic. Oh, the panic.
You want to look at it. You're like, fuck, he's there, bro. I want to see this guy's eyeballs. I paid good money for this shit. And bro, looking into the eyes of a gorilla as he's staring at you when he's like 3 meters away from you, bro. That was, bro. It was. I can't even explain how fucking much of a mind fuckery it was, because it wasn't that, okay, there's a big gorilla, it's scary, it could tear me apart. That was part of it, but it was like, bro, this thing is like a human.
This thing exists.
This thing is, it's not, I'm not looking at like a dog, like, you know, a dog staring in the eyes, like, okay, it's a dog, it's an animal. Sometimes dogs, you look at them and you're like, bro, this thing's got a personality. Wow, it understands shit, you know? Like, it blows our mind, right? But this thing was like a fucking man. It was staring at us, like the facial expressions it had was like, like it had like human facial expressions.
Yeah.
That's what blew my mind. I was like, what the fuck am I staring at, bro?
And you knew he had like consciousness almost. It's like he was sitting there thinking about what's going on as well.
Bro, yeah, he definitely had a consciousness for sure. Without
this Lebanese bloke, I'm gonna fuck him up.
Who's this chimpanzee I'm staring at?
Oh man.
And then, bro, after 10 minutes of that, what he was doing was asserting his dominance and making sure that we were safe enough for his family to meet us. And then when he came to that conclusion, he sat down. He became like this playful teddy bear. And he just started eating. He started fighting around us. It was hilarious, bro. It was just like chilling out around us like one of the boys. And then that's when his family started coming up to us and approaching us. And that's when the teenagers started coming first, and they were like lying down next to us, and we weren't allowed to touch them or anything, but they were being playful. And bro, that's when it was like super peaceful, chill. And bro, what was so cool, like a realization I had at that time was, I'm like, look, here's this family in the middle of the jungle in African mountains. They got no clue what's going on in the outside world with politics and wars and big cities and buildings and, you know, all this shit that we stress out about, but they're just so happy. They're just so chill. They're so happy. They're just here like this beautiful family. And I'm like, wow. Like I could literally just be like that now. I could literally just forget about everything right now and just be present where I am, like these, and like these gorillas do. And that's what was. Oh yeah, and this was the biggest fucking mind blowing part of the whole thing. The gorilla. So all the gorillas have names because the conservationists, they track them, their names to see what's going on, make sure they're safe, to protect them from poachers and shit. Bro, that gorilla's name was Charles.
Yeah, fuck.
His fucking name was Charles, bro. It blew
Of
my
course it was.
His fucking name was Charles, bro. And it's funny because, you know, it was like metaphorically, I went on this whole trip solo to find myself. And then I ended up finding myself in the end. And there's like a mirror reflection as a gorilla teaching me these lessons that are going to connect me to who I am, bro. It was fucking mind blowing.
Wow. Okay. I'm so happy I asked about the gorilla experience. Holy shit.
It's a
Bro, we're
fucking
done. We can stop the potty. We're done. Like this is fine. This is fine. Holy. Because in that moment, there's so much to unpack because I felt exactly what you said. So we've in this society somehow, whatever created us, right, goes, here you go, things. Go and have fun. And yet we've fucking boxed ourselves into our own prisons. Like no one, and I'm so grateful of being able to escape, whatever you want to call it, but it's so hard to look at it and see people still within it and see how unhappy they are, see that they're doing these things that they don't even realize they've got free will because of the programming. So, like you said, when you said they're just there fucking eating plants and shit and being staunch and probably having a bit of wrestles and drinking some water, that is their life.
Yeah, yeah.
And yet we could have that life too if we really wanted to, but we choose to stay in what we're in.
Yeah.
It just makes no fucking sense. So I can see now in that moment, as you said, you went around this world and it was like this synchronistic moment of like, holy shit, like this is what I actually want to be and do. So you've now, and how that was what, 8 years ago or so?
Yeah, yes, 8 years ago.
Do you feel like you've unconsciously been working towards that moment of being that?
Um, yeah. I mean, yeah, in a sense, I mean, not unconsciously working, you know, being a, you know, living in a jungle, scratching my ass all day, you know, not so much
Just
that,
the
but
freedom aspect.
just the freedom aspect for sure. You know,
Mm,
that was my biggest reason for actually transitioning into an online business and wanting to, you know, travel the world as I'm going to do next year and doing all those things to have that freedom to go and do that. I'd say during those last few years, my relationship with society has changed a lot more. You know, initially you're getting this wrapping being you know, taken away from you, and you're seeing, you know, these constructs and this conditioning and, you know, all these things that imprison people so much, and there can be such like a negative association with it and so much sadness and kind of like this responsibility, like fuck, I got to change this. And that was definitely a part of my experience that motivated me to do what I'm doing now. But I definitely see things a lot differently within, you know, society now. There is a lot more acceptance towards it and just understanding. Like I can understand why this conditioning exists, at least from a survival perspective, and therefore I can have a sense of appreciation and gratitude for it that doesn't cloud my vision of it so much that leaves me being really nihilistic and kind of negative towards, you know, this place that I'm in right now.
agreed.
Because that's something I think a lot of people, when they start doing this work, you know, I think that's a period that you're going to go through. You're going to go through a period of like, oh my God, everything's a lie. Santa Claus doesn't exist, you know, and all this stuff. It's like, damn you people who lied to me and I still believe the lie. Like I
Fuck
need to
Illuminati.
Yeah, fuck the other.
Yeah, yeah, all the
Exactly
shit,
that.
right?
And I'm not judging anyone who thinks like that. I've definitely, gone
No,
down
no,
a lot of rabbit holes, and there's still a lot of the things that I believe and I can see, within society that has been as a result of those realizations that I've had. But I'm definitely a lot more accepting of, the conditioning, the society that we're in, knowing how much of it I can and can't control. And I think that's what allows me to keep a light-hearted sense throughout this whole human experience, where the sharings that I'm giving, they're not ultra dark all the time. I'm able to have a bit of a laugh about it because it is fucking hilarious. It is funny. And also it gives me the ability to play the game, that I'm in right now, and actually take from it what I want and what's actually going to serve me and benefit me for my individual goals and needs in this lifetime that I'm in. And I think with that, that's going to enhance my quality of life rather than rejecting it so much that I'm depriving myself from actually some of the benefits that I can get, not only for myself, my future family, and for my community that I'm creating. And it also allows me to not be fragmented from this collective
the
consciousness
collective,
that
yeah.
we're in. Because it's like, if I'm individually doing it with myself, well, then it's no different to me internally doing it with a part of me. A part of me is fragmenting from the other aspects of my psyche. Like, if we're going to look at the process of what's called individuation, like becoming one with who you are, it's becoming one with everything that is around us. You know what I mean? So I think that's my outlook on it now.
I love that, bro. That lands hard for me because I feel like that's what the last 6 months have been for me. Is started the journey, 7 years ago or so, and in the beginning was very judgmental of the people around me that weren't on the journey, the work, doing the breath work and everything. And my family, I don't want to be around my family. They're so low vibe and they just don't get it. Now I'm like, bro, I don't give a fuck what anyone does. If you're happy, cool. Like, we need this. We need the matrix. We need
Yeah,
society because we don't have infrastructure if we don't. Like, I got so much respect for the blokes that wake up at 3 in the morning to go do the rubbish dump.
exactly,
Like,
exactly.
fuck me. Like, I know I couldn't do it, and just so much respect for the men and the women that do the jobs that most people don't want to do, and yet they still show up.
Yeah,
So they're allowed
exactly.
to have a whinge about how hard it is. They're allowed to feel like shit. They're allowed to do the things because fucking it is hard, And yeah, I agree, man. Like, I got caught up in this journey where the people around me were so judgmental of everyone, and I will put my hand up and say I was there too. But I
Agreed.
had, like you said, you go through that process and you realize, fuck, I apologize for how I acted then, but
Yeah.
also not shaming that part of me because it was very necessary for us to get to this point, right?
Exactly. That's right. That part of us is there to create some distance away from that so that we're not dependent in, let's say, this, conditioning construct, whatever these resources that we have, uh, so dependent on it that we can't create our own way of being that's better for us, that's authentic to us. So that it's like that rejection is there to just create a bit of distance for us to discover who we are, so then we can integrate ourselves back in that matrix in a way that serves us. And for me, doing that is actually being of service to people. It's supporting people that are ready to do that work. It's, being a part of a drumming community that has a weekly event where, anyone can come and join in, and it gets a lot of people to just connect with their bodies and things like that. So I think that's how I've improved my relationship with it. And also seeing that, a big thing for me was seeing actually how a lot of my rejection towards all, this type of conditioning and society, it actually came from a deep rooted rejection that I had towards my father. The father represents the masculine, and the masculine represents the order, the structure. And, I was very, like I said, very anti-conformist, very anti-authority, and like, fuck you, don't tell me what to do. Because really, I wasn't going like that to society. I was going like that to my father.
Daddy. Yep.
Exactly. Whereas now, like, even though I've still got elements of that I love, that's allowed me to be my own boss and, do all these things that other people who are ultra conforming just wouldn't be able to do in their life because they've got that big block there. I've been able to see that, the current construct in society that we're in, it really, from my current view now, it comes from this deep seeded motivation for self-preservation, self-protection. It's like, if we were to go back, whatever, 10,000 years ago, like, a lot of the problems that people had then, we don't have them now. Why? Because of all of this structure and order that we've created, and against these diseases and these animals, and the elements, the weather, the freezing cold, the scorching heat, the famines, the droughts, all these different things. This structure has been created so that we don't have to worry, about those things anymore. And by no means is our structure perfect. There's a lot of negative aspects to it. There's a lot of shadow elements to it that we can't just be like, life's beautiful, but then there's shitloads of child trafficking or some shit like that. It's okay, we can criticize it still so that we can continue to evolve and grow. But I've just been able to see that okay, yeah, there's all these fucking rules and all this shit, but like I can kind of see why they're there, or at least the intention behind why they're there. Doesn't mean I agree with all of them. There's some of them that I'll oppose against, and I will, and I'm not afraid to do that and protest. If it's something that's just super ridiculous, I'm like, fuck that. I don't care if you're doing this to try and keep us safe. This is bullshit. It's because it can go too far. It's like a helicopter parent. They're just over you all the time trying to. It's fucked. There's a spectrum, and it can sometimes go too far from that. So we need to call out that when the time comes. But at least now I've been able to see what the intention is and see it from a lens of love, where I can see everything as love. And I don't, I'm not always like that at all times, but I've definitely moved closer towards that overall, my perspective of things that I used to fucking hate when I was younger.
Dude, well said. That was epic. I'm marking that. It's exciting to think that you're at this place now, because knowing what your journey is about to be next year, what is the plans? Are you still going to be doing what you're doing just from wherever the fuck you are, essentially?
Yeah. So look, I love coaching. I love doing the healing work that I'm doing now, and I'm definitely going to continue doing that. And I feel like I'm only really getting started in that, because over the last 4 years, I've learned so much as a coach and as a healer, doing 8,000 hours of work and workshops and one-on-one sessions, that my ability to hold space and help people is just improved. The quality of it's improved. We've got a couple of different programs that I run. One of them is the Inner Child Healing Academy. So it's like a lower cost membership-based program that people can join in to be immersed in a safe space weekly, learn meditation, learn inner child work, shadow work, be guided through it, be a part of a beautiful supporting community as they do it as well. And then we've got a 12-week immersive experience called Shadow Mastery. This is where people really want to go deeper into the concepts and integrate all these aspects of themselves. Sounds similar perhaps to what you've done, all these different aspects of shadow work integration. We have our own techniques that we use that are very powerful. So those are the two programs I run. I run a inner child workshop for people that want to dip their toe in it, get an experience of it, or if they just want a safe space to process something every few weeks. I'm running retreats now. I run 2 retreats every year. So we're currently doing them in New South Wales, but eventually I want to do them internationally, and later down the line, do them with a little gorilla trek in Africa.
Oh,
Hey,
get out of here, man. I'll be
so
there.
I want to do some in Africa, Middle East, like do some around the world eventually as my name starts to get a little bit bigger.
Yep.
I want to do live talks all around the world and really start to preach my message and connect with a lot of people that are now following me internationally. I've got a lot of people from Europe and the States that have recently started following me, so I want to go do some
Epic, bro.
travels around there, as well as some other lower socioeconomic status areas, third world countries, and start to support people there. And while I'm doing that, I want to pump my YouTube channel, do just content that's a longer format. It really helps people understand these concepts and learn, because Instagram, it's just so quick. You can only express like a little point, and then I really want to start to help people understand what I'm trying to preach a little bit deeper. And also do like a travel series where like I'm actually going to places, interviewing people, going to cool locations and sharing my experiences. Of very similar to that gorilla experience, like having that documented and sharing that for everyone to see, so that they can get an essence of that could motivate them to make some change in their life, or at least go to those places and travel and have the experience for themselves. So that's what's in store for me, and there's going to be some new things happening with that next year.
Dude, that's big. I think, well, I already know you're going to absolutely kill it. I guess one thing I always like to share with anyone that's listening is, the people that get on are very inspiring. Some of the best guests I've had, though, are the people that no one knows about too, because we've all got our own journeys. We've all got our own resources, mentors, all the things. What are some of the main things that have helped you the most up to this point? Even if it's a book that stands out, a YouTube channel, podcast. I know I've got a shitload of them, but I'm sure there's a few things that stand out for you.
Cool. All right. So, a few people that have really been influential on me on my journey. One of them is a guy called Robert Sapolsky. So I've read a few of his books. So one of them is called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. Another one is Behave. The other one is The Trouble with Testosterone. So these are three different books that I've read by Robert Sapolsky, neuroscientist, very rational based information, but expressed in a engaging way. So even though they're quite in-depth teachings that he's teaching, but the way he expresses it's quite engaging. And that taught me a lot about just the different aspects of the human psyche. Like, how I used to have like a really negative association with, racism and stuff like that and victimize myself for that. His teachings actually shifted my perspective on racism, as well as traveling around the world and seeing how everyone's racist.
Yeah.
You get albino Africans, and they're extremely judged by Black Africans. Just things that like made me realize, okay, we're all fucking human. But
yeah,
understanding racism from the perspective of survival and tribalism and us versus them, and how before that, humans weren't congregated in thousands in these cities with different races all around each other. That's only been quite a recent thing over the last few thousand years anyway, in some places non-existent for a long time. And just made me realize how there's the amygdala, the part of our brain that associates us with an in-tribe and out-tribe. And the reason why we need to do that is because out-tribe members before pose as a threat, and people that have different facial structures and different skin colors and hair textures and shit generally would have been an out-tribe member. So, but it's not saying that racism is acceptable, but it's just understanding that we all have that part of us, and we have to understand that part of us so we can navigate it, so we don't unconsciously use it, and it causes us to do some pretty dreadful things to other people purely for their race. So it just allowed me to have a bit more understanding, like, okay, these people judge me because they're not used to people with my appearance and they feel insecure around me, and then they project, it's just that classic stuff. So he teaches a lot about stress, the nervous system. He was really cool. I've studied N L P as well. N L P was a great foundational way for me to learn just more about communication and different coaching methods. That helped me just form a little bit of a foundation for that I could expand upon. Carl Jung, I love Carl Jung's stuff.
Oh, Jung's the man, bro.
Yeah, he's a G. I love all of Carl Jung's stuff. Richard Schwartz, he's someone that introduced me to parts work.
Love parts work. Internal family systems.
Yeah, internal family systems. I love that. And also, I've been getting into family constellations recently, which is by a guy called Bert Hellinger.
Yeah.
Really interesting work. That's helped me. These are all things that have just helped me with my own teaching, with what I use for my clients. But I'd say that the thing that's helped me the most in terms of what I do for work is just the experience that I've had working with so many people. You pick up patterns, you get better at refining your craft, and there's no better way to evolve than experience. It's like an acquired wisdom that you gain. I've dabbled into psychedelics. I'm not completely against psychedelics. I'm not putting them up on a pedestal, but I've had some pretty cool experiences using psychedelics. So I'll attribute that to some of the shifts that I've had. Traveling for sure, going to different countries. There's loads of other stories that we didn't even get into. But just I'd say definitely challenge yourself, get yourself out of your comfort zone, and do some things that you haven't done before in different environments. It's beautiful for switching on different genes that we have, that if you're just going to keep yourself in the same place, you're going to run in the same genes. And if those genes are switched on over an extended period of time, it may expose yourself to getting disease or illnesses and things like that, or just using the same aspects of your psyche. So it's good to just branch yourself out and expose yourself to new stimuli. And yeah, I'd say that's a bit of a rundown.
I think that's some pretty good tools, tips, and tactics, bro. Thank you so much. It's wild. Like, as you said, we didn't even get a chance to get into those other parts of the stories, but at the same time, what you've just dropped, the hour went by so fucking quick. I feel like we started 10 seconds ago.
Wow, that was quick.
And though, this just shows flow state. When two certain people come together, the conversation flows. I'm sure the listeners will get plenty from this, bro. I just wanted to, experience you as a person, whether it was going to be in screen or in person. As you said, I don't pedestal anyone. I think everyone's equal. Everyone's the fucking man. Everyone's the woman, whatever it might be. Whereas in the past, I'd freak out. I'd be like, oh my God, it's Charles Myssy. What do I do? What do I say? So it's really beautiful to see, just so how lovely you are, and in regards to how you showed up for me and for my listeners, and just want to say thank you for your time, bro. And yeah, I can tell this episode's going to be beautiful.
Thanks, bro. Man, I really, really, really enjoyed this conversation, bro. It actually has given me energy, this
Mm,
conversation. So I just want to say a big thanks for being an awesome host and awesome person, and giving me a space where I can just share parts of my story. And for everyone listening, I just want to say a big thank you. Thanks for tuning in and hearing my story. I hope there's been something that you can take away from this. If anyone has any questions, anyone wants to reach out and connect with me, you can just look me up on YouTube, look me up on Instagram. If you're interested in any of my workshops, you can just go on my Instagram, and you can click on my bio, and there's just everything there, every single option that you need to either immerse yourself in any of my programs or just a workshop. You're more than welcome to. If you want to ask me a question, just send me a DM. And yeah, Travis, just a big thank you again. Much love, bro. Keep up the amazing work that you're doing as well, my man.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. And thank you for listening, guys. As Charles said, like, we want to get this stuff out there. The more you share, the more you listen, the more you get it to people, the more people we help. I know Charles and myself have got very similar things around helping humans. I might have a label of a coach and a mentor, but at the core of it all, I just want to help people because I've been through my shit. I know how good it feels to be on the other side of that. So much love, brother. Much love to everyone that's listening, and let's go. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.